Hello, and welcome to the FringeRX podcast. I'm Anna Strong, and I'm on a mission to find a cure for autoimmune. We talk education, healing, support, do's, don'ts, wins, and losses, all to improve our quality of life. Wow, we have such a great show for you, but let's kind of recap what happened this week. We have a pipeline that got hacked into by computers, and we don't have any gas on the East Coast right now. People are kind of freaking out. We have everybody getting vaccinated. California is actually one of the top states of not having COVID, which is huge because we like to be number one. When it was really bad, we were really bad. When it's good, we want to be really good. I have a very special guest today. You know how when you go into a doctor and you're not feeling well and it takes years to get a diagnosis and then they tell you, hey, there's no cure. Let me tell you what, there is a cure. There is a way to battle autoimmune disease. And I have a guest with you who is my inspiration. He is not only a family member, because it's in the DNA, but he's a marvelous person. He's my cousin, and he got muscular sclerosis years ago. And he went, I'll let him tell you the whole story, but basically he had to go to Russia. He got chemoed, he got stem celled, and today he still tests negative for MS. So he's an inspiration to everyone, an inspiration to me, and why I have not gone the pharmaceutical route with my autoimmune. And I want you guys to welcome a serial entrepreneur, one of my best friends, Micheal Phelan. Yay, Micheal!
Hello.
What's really great is we're kind of living parallel lives. I think, you are, a lot older than me. I'm kidding. It's like a little bit of my secret.
I was.
And you've done a lot of the same things that I've done. You've opened businesses. You've been under a lot of stress. You had a family. But later in life, I'm not sure how old you were when you found out that you had MS, and I don't know how long you were having symptoms. So why don't you share that with us right now?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I was 49 years old, and I had, as you said, I was a serial entrepreneur. I had sold a business, and I was looking for something else to do. So I jumped right into a new enterprise, a software company with a couple of young Bulgarian geniuses who invented a new way of monitoring networks. They were super smart and super excited about what they were doing, and I jumped in and created more stress for myself than I ever had. So I was 49 years old when that hit, and I joined them, and within 6 months I started getting stabbing pains and numbness, and I said, okay, this is not normal. So that's when it started, when I was 49.
When you were 49 or 45?
Yes.
Yeah, and
I was 40. Oh, I'm sorry. I was 49. I was 49. I'm 64 right now, so I had it for almost 10 years, and I've not had it for the last 6 years now.
Wow. Did you go the whole pharmaceutical route at first?
I did everything. I have the habit of thinking I can solve anything myself. So I went the traditional route. And as you said earlier, I heard that, here's the list of things you can do. They have like 3 arrows in their quiver. And there were things like steroids. You can take one of these 3 drugs. Those drugs expanded. Lots of marketing around the effectiveness of those drugs. But what they're talking about is how, if they say it's 30% effective, it just means it's slowing it down 30%.
Right.
It doesn't stop it. I had the advantage of working in technology, and my investors were investors in some of the leading research institutions in the world and universities.
Perfect.
So I would use that calling card to find out who's doing research that might solve the MS, the multiple sclerosis issue, or any autoimmune issue. And so I had numbers of conversations with researchers who are always looking for money because they need money to do their research. And I would tell them, I'll introduce them to people that may give them money, but I'm a patient. And I'm also trying to find out what are the best, outcomes, what are the best choices. I don't think that the pharmaceutical choices are bad. They're just not super effective. More recently, the monoclonal antibodies, they've gotten a lot more effective. And so I don't want to poo-poo them. They do help a lot of people. But there's more arrows in their quiver, but they don't sometimes stress the things that we can do. So I look at doctors as a resource.
Do you
And
think
I
do
look
you
at,
do you
go
think
ahead.
that do you think the doctors know a lot of the holistic things that can help? I find that a lot of doctors are not trained in this fashion. The functional medicine people are the people that think a little bit out of the box, that are looking
Yes.
for answers. Like I have a gorgeous rheumatologist here in Los Angeles. His name is Dr. First. And the first time I saw him was an hour and a half consultation. I have never gotten that on more of the cookie cutter type of doctors that come in. They give you the 15-minute blood test. They say, oh, this is what you have, and this is what I'm told to treat you with. And no, there's no cure, but it'll slow it down. And you get that 15 minutes, and by the time you walk out of the doctor's office, it's like, what just happened? And then you go home and you Google it and you find out all the side effects. At least that's what happened
Right.
to me. So,
Well, I think you answer.
did the pharmaceuticals
I think
help you at first?
I couldn't tell. The disease is progressing. Do I know would it have progressed faster? I mean, many people have symptoms for many years. And the thing about these different pharmaceuticals or treatments is you don't know what would happen if you did nothing. So you have
Right.
nothing to compare. You're your own guinea pig, and you're their guinea pig too. So you asked earlier, do you think many of them are trained? And I agree 100% with what you said. Neurologists aren't really trained for all the factors. It's like you have a barn with 100 holes in the roof, and it's raining in causing some problem. They look at one of the holes and think, "Oh, I'll give you this drug, and that'll help it." And they really don't have effective treatments. They have a few, and as you said earlier, the functional medicine people, if you can find somebody who is a really good functional medicine trained physician who understands all the things you can control. As I said earlier, I look at doctors as a resource. I'm a resource. I talk to people all the time who get diagnosed as MS. Friends and family will look at me as a poster child for what you can do, and they'll invite me to talk to someone. So I've done that hundreds and hundreds of times. And I try to tell people, use your doctors as a resource. They're somebody who can give you information, but you have to take charge of your own health. And there's the things you can do, and then there's resources. The things you can do are really simple. It's what you eat or when you don't eat, or fasting is not eating. How you handle stress and anxiety, and that's a huge one. How you sleep, which is probably tied into your anxiety, how you exercise, and the last one that I put on there is how you breathe. I mean, we do things when we get excited and nervous. We start breathing that just exacerbates the problem. And you know, I think there's a lot of things we can do, but
That's almost like that's a
under that category.
five-step process there, but all of them I totally agree with. The breathing is something that I've just gotten introduced to, and it's in the morning, and and don't judge me, I'm a former smoker. And I got to
Me
tell
too.
you, one of my best dreams ever was just with my girlfriends in the stall of my high school smoking a cigarette. And I was going like, oh my God, that was fun, wasn't it? And, but unfortunately, you're building up all those toxins, and I think that has a lot to do with it too. It's the amount of toxins that are building up in your system. Now, thanks to you, I did find a remarkable man. I believe in, and tell me if I have that's right, but it's breathing, but it's also cold therapy. And well, I'm going to let you run with this because you've been actually doing this for what, like a month and a half now with your son?
Now, almost a year.
Really? Oh, wow.
So,
Well, tell us a little bit. His name is William Holt,
sure.
right?
Oh no, Wim Hof.
Wim Hof. I was close.
Yeah, William Holt is a good actor.
Yeah. Okay.
So he should play the part of Wim Hof when they do a movie.
We could cast him.
But
yeah, he's interesting. This whole process is very interesting. So tell our viewers exactly what you did.
Well, I'd look at him as another resource, and he is referred to as the Iceman, and he can drop in front of the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art in New York, when they had a Scandinavian art exhibit. He got inside a big tub and they filled it with ice and up to his head. And he sat there with doctors monitoring him, was able to just keep his core body temperature, whatever he wanted it to be. And they also tested his blood later. And he could basically, in a petri dish, they would put endotoxins in and they wouldn't get through. So he was doing something by taking himself in a brutal way out of the comfort zone that we live every day and taking control of his immune system. So in a nutshell, he believes that taking yourself out of the comfort zone is two things you do. One, you breathe. There's a very aggressive, almost hyperventilation exercise he goes through. And then you hold your breath. And and you go through these rounds of breath holds. After that, you expose yourself to cold. You start with a warm shower, and then you, maybe the first day, you just give yourself 3 seconds of cold, and it's painful. But within a month, you're doing a minute. And within a couple of months, you're doing several minutes. So ideally, you get the benefits after 3 minutes. So telling somebody to jump in absolutely ice cold showers or ice cold water is torture for people, but it does do something. Before I look at that as one of the auxiliary things I've done, I think the main things, those things I mentioned earlier, eating, what you eat, how you eat, if you fast, how you handle stress, how you handle sleep, and your exercise are the things that I put on the list first. And the one that is most important to you it's different for everyone. For someone, stress might be the thing that, if you're in a real stressful situation and you've put yourself in a situation that's, doesn't match your, all your training, and you're in a tough situation, you're going to feel stress, and that's going to be at the top of the list of the thing that's affecting your health. If you're not exercising or eating donuts every day, that's going to be at the top of your list. So for everybody, it's different to look at, and that's sometimes a good functional medicine doctor can do that.
Yeah, I know. Diet was huge for me, but
yes.
But the whole thing I find fascinating about the breathing and the cold is that I watched this documentary on him, and he was. I saw them doing just the breathing thing, and he would do it in a room full of people, and they were like almost like they had done MDMA or something, and going like, oh, I had this so euphoric feeling, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's almost achieving, a drug-induced state just by hyperventilating and holding your breath. But then I think about like when I was 5 or 6, I've been getting high since I've been 5 or 6, thank you very much. But we would turn around really, really fast in the living room and watch the floor, and then we would fall down and the whole room would spin around and spin around and spin around. And it's like, yeah, that was a really cool feeling. So I don't know. I haven't done the breathing exercise. Yes, I've just done a little bit in the morning on a different breathing exercise where you actually, but it's kind of on the same wavelength. Like you breathe a certain amount in, and then you exhale very, very slowly. And you breathe
Yes.
in 4 seconds. You out. You take your out breath at 8 seconds, and it's almost like a meditation. And then of course I'm doing that too. So, but the cold shower in the morning I used to do when I was like a teenager, because I'd be up all
I did
night.
those as a teenager too. I
Yeah,
still do those.
yeah. What? You still do what?
I meant I did them as a teenager to distract me from my hormones.
Oh,
And
oh,
I, I,
wow.
they used to say you needed a cold shower,
Uh,
um, but it
yes,
it
take a
does
cold
wake you
shower.
up.
But it
It
does. It
does
kind of
wake you
shocks your
up.
system and wakes you up
Yeah.
in a whole different way. Like when you jump into a pool and it's freezing, if you get in like all the way right away, it's better. It's just, you get used to it faster. And there's something there. I'm gonna try it. And by watching his whole documentary, it was really fascinating. Another of the resources that you recommended was journaling.
Well, before I jump into journaling, you brought up
Okay.
a couple of other things. You brought up MDMA, and you brought
Yeah.
up breath work, almost inducing those same deep states. And there is a lot of work going on right now um, in post-traumatic stress with
Hmm.
Johns Hopkins and Harvard and University of California, all doing studies on one of hundreds of studies on using MDMA and psilocybin for in a structured way where the set and setting is created for you really to deal with your post-traumatic stress. And all of us have some post-traumatic stress, whether it's real little or it's real big. And so bringing that to the surface, I mean, that's using an atom bomb, if you will, using MDMA or using psilocybin with a, a medical guide who can create the right set and setting for it is really getting amazing results. Now, in breath work, you said earlier, there are people that get the same results as using psilocybin. Back when Timothy Leary in the 60s was, getting everybody to he scared everybody by telling everyone just to drop acid and drop out, and so it got shut down. One of the guys, one of his contemporaries, was a guy named Stan Groff, or Stan Goff. And Stan was a researcher who was doing amazing things with psilocybin, with people who had problems. But he also noticed people who came to him from indigenous tribes and from different you know religious training that were using breath work were achieving the same kind of altered states or deep altered states and having the same effects. So when it got shut down in this late 60s, when Timothy Leary got scared everybody, Stan just kept on. He goes, look, breathing isn't illegal. Let's keep on doing the breathing. So he has started. He's still living too. He's probably in his mid 90s, I guess. But he started something called holotropic breath work. And it is just a very structured, guided way of using breath to get the same effects as, say, psilocybin and MDMA. So some people who are afraid of going and taking, an hallucinogen can get the same effects by using holotropic breath work. So if you look him up, he's a great resource of somebody that um, who can help with the stress side of this. And for me, I believe that stress part was always the biggest contributor to the disease, and something that I know people that were able to do the things you can control, the eating, learning how to manage stress, sleeping right, and exercising right, and were able to completely manage their disease. Um, I was doing things that caused stress, and I didn't want to. I chose not to stop them. So, I was looking for ways of doing something more dramatic, and I can jump into that if you want at any time, Anna, with um, using stem cell programs.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We're gonna definitely get into that. But I have to agree with you on the stress. And if people know that this runs in their family, as soon as they find themselves in a job that they're going home and saying, oh my God, I hate my job, oh, I'm so stressed all the time. Yeah, they shouldn't be doing it. I know it's hard. I mean, for the last 3 months, I'm going like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. Why am I doing this to myself? Because I'm trying to achieve something. But, it's you have to watch out for yourself. You got to put yourself first, and you have to
Yeah,
love
exactly.
yourself. And, it's a disciplinary kind of a thing to do. But there's a lot of stressful situations that you can basically get up, walk out, and leave. You know, and
And
that's
and there's
something that
some
you
that
have to
you
train you good.
and there's
What?
some that you can't. I mean, I jumped in with, I mentioned, with these young Bulgarian geniuses, and the company took off. It became an international company, which became the way Apple monitored their networks, and Google,
I
and
remember.
and
Yeah.
the top financial company. So I was racing all around the country. Well, I'm sorry, all around the world, um, and trying to help this company grow. I'd hired a lot of people. I was responsible for them.
Yeah.
And the stress things were sometimes people that you cared about weren't a good fit, and you had to let them go. And to me, that was the hardest, where you're affecting somebody's life.
Yeah,
And
that
to
is
me,
hard.
those were just incredibly stressful. And then as I realized my body, I mean, in 2012, I was in a wheelchair in Poland visiting telecommunication companies and realizing I don't have the energy anymore to do this. I could walk maybe 100 feet before I had to sit down for 15 minutes and then walk another 100 feet. There was a track near my house that was 1 mile, and it had 4 benches. And so I would just start walking on that track. And my right side had already just become partially paralyzed. So I'd be dragging my right side. I had walking sticks to keep me up, but I would just eye that next bench. If I could make it to the quarter mile to that bench, I'd go sit down and wait 10 minutes or 15 minutes and then do the next one. And now I do, I don't know, 3 to 10 miles every day. And so I really count my blessings.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. But what I mean, at this point, I mean, you're trying to help other people, and you're dragging yourself to do it, to finish. But when did it dawn on you that, hey, all this is not working for me? I'm going to do something that nobody else does that's going to help me. And how did you find it?
As I said earlier, I was constantly looking. I mean, I drove my wife nuts. She goes, You're not going to find a fix for this." And I was convinced. There are researchers that were doing things. There were like some researchers that were inducing tolerance. It's like taking um, a little bit of a poison. You take a little bit more and a little bit more till can tolerate that. Um, we are allergic to things, and if you, for instance, peanuts, now they're giving people such a micro dose of the peanut antigen, the thing that irritates you, and then they build it up a little more and a little more till you're not allergic. That was one of the methods that I was following. Another one, though, was the stem cell. There were a number of stem cell research programs around the world, um, at places like the Cleveland Clinic, where they were taking a type of stem cell, your MSCs, which are created in your bone marrow, and they're what heals us. When a cell dies, your body's always, cells are dying every second. Tens of thousands of cells are dying. But when they're dying, or they send out a chemical message through your blood to your bone marrow that says, I got a problem here. I need healing in this spot. And so that message to your bone marrow creates a stem cell, and it comes back. And with it, it not just brings a stem cell that is a multiplurant, it can become different things. It also brings with it a whole bunch of what they call trophic factors, which are all these healing factors that we've evolved with that come swimming back with the stem cell to help heal that area that needs to be healed. And so there are lots of stem cell treatments that have emerged, and it's unclear if it's the stem cells that are doing the work or these trophic factors that are coming with the stem cells that we've evolved with to heal. What I did, though, I did over 4 times, just got MSC stem cell treatments that I had to go out of the country to get. I found that those slowed my disease progress. So as I was growing this company, which was really like monitoring the nervous system of the world, it was monitoring the world's largest networks and telling them where the pain is. My nervous system was going the other direction, and the company's going like this. I was using stem cells to keep inflammation down and to keep my body working. I had heard, though, of a program that used stem cells. It was called HSCT, and out of the University of Chicago, I'm sorry, Northwestern in Chicago, Dr. Richard Burt was doing this research on hematopoietic stem cell treatment, which is HSCT, which is basically wipe out your immune system with chemo, just use an atom bomb, blow it all up, kill your immune system, stick you in a bubble but then they reboot you with your own stem cells that they've harvested. They harvest them kind of like people on dialysis. They give you a drug that lets your bone marrow release all the stem cells in mass, and then they put you on something that recirculates your blood, and they filter out these stem cells. And when they get enough, and it might take a day to do that, they freeze those or store them, or they add a hormone so they can get more of them so you get a therapeutic dose. They increase them and grow them. They wipe out your immune system, and then they reboot you with your own stem cells. And that has had, when they talk about all these the efficacy, how effective are all these different MS treatments, they're measured in the 30-some percentile. And that really is 30% chance of it slowing down.
Right.
The meta-studies mean take all the different studies and put them together and say, what does this mean? That have been done for HSCT, there's nothing like it. It's like 70-80% chance of stopping your disease. And if you're younger, we still have vibrant, young, beautiful stem cells that can heal anything. You turn it all around. So I ended up trying to get into these studies in the US, and I tried for 6 years, and I was getting worse and worse with my disease. And I didn't qualify for the studies in each case because of
what was the reason?
It was either disease category. They wanted people that had remitting relapsing type of one category. They thought mine was more progressive. And so that wasn't their study. They weren't doing a study for progressive people. So they just kind of made the assumption it doesn't work with them. And
yeah, that's where we are with a lot of those now. Yeah. We got to make some noise. But keep going. What'd you do?
We're not in the right category. And then also, I aged out. You had to be younger than 55. And so I had tried for 5 years. But when I was 59, 6 years ago, I had since I didn't qualify in the US, I sent notices to all the people around the world who were doing HSCT. And a really good resource, a guy that was doing the meta studies, a guy named George Goss, publishes all these studies of where you can go, what are the best places, what are the results. And so I used him as my resource. And I sent letters to doctors slaving in Israel, and I forget Dr. Moroni or something in Italy, and another doctor in India, and a Dr. Fedorenko in Moscow. And I got accepted to a few of their programs, but Dr. Fedorenko, his assistant called me and said, look, if you can come over next month, we have somebody who just dropped out. So I got on an airplane with my son, and I stayed in Moscow for 5 weeks. And I came back really super weak because I had pretty aggressive chemo. And that took a long time to heal from. But since that day, in July, 6 years ago, I've gotten stronger every month. And now there's damage that was left. MS, I'm older, so there's things that didn't rebuild. There's things that scar over that can't be fixed. And that's fine, but it stopped progression. And it really gave me hope of a new, that's the main thing. It gave hope, stopped progression, said, you know what, I'm not just going to end up as a guy sitting in a wheelchair with someone else feeding me and wiping my butt.
Right. And
I can have a new life.
And basically, when you have these drugs that are 30%, they're just slowing the progression down, which means, you feel okay today, but you might feel like crap tomorrow. And then, you know what, in 10 years, you're going to be my patient forever. Why? Why do we do this in the United States? We're supposed to be like, everybody goes like, oh, we have the best medical in the world. We don't. We are shameful, in my opinion. It's a national shame that we have a medical community that is like a revolving door. Every 3 months, you have to go back to your doctor in order to get your prescription filled. If we cured everybody with these over 100 different autoimmune diseases, what's going to happen to our pharmaceuticals, our medical society that live off of us?
I agree. I think it's we have a broken system. We have a system that we combined the business too much. So they call them reimbursement mechanisms. So they made a book of codes. So the codes are really so they get paid. That's what it's for. Get paid and not get sued. So if you're in the book, the standard of care, you put a number. Oh, you've got this. We think you might have a 50172B, and that's the code for that. Might mean that you're developing drop foot, and so give it a code. Then you can get reimbursed. You can get the money back, and so we allowed doctors to become part of a financial machine that takes the care out of healthcare. You said earlier, you get run through in 15 minutes, someone sees you. The doctors don't like what they're doing. They're under pressure to do this, industrial, conveyor belt of people coming through.
Of medical,
and they don't, they don't have time to care. One of the things I noticed in Russia was, and not probably because I went to the place that Putin goes to. I mean, this was like going to the Johns Hopkins of Russia.
Very nice.
There was a lot of care. The care was tremendous. And the windows opened. There was flower gardens outside. There was a monastery on the same grounds where monks were walking around. And it just was a different setting. And so when a doctor talked to you, there wasn't the conveyor belt. So I know that's probably not what most of the citizens get there. So I don't want to say that's what we should model after, but there are doctors that, they're in that functional medicine group that really get it and know how to be a resource. But the main resource is you have to be your own advocate, and you have to just kind of go through those. And if you have somebody that understands those things that you can control, whether it's stress or eating or sleeping or exercising, and there are great resources in each of those. There are great authors like Amy Myers wrote a book called the Autoimmune Solution.
It's a
She lost her
fabulous book.
thyroid when she was, yeah,
Yeah.
she lost her thyroid when she was a med student, and they took it. And that caused so many problems for her. She said, I'm never going to let that happen to someone else. So she went back and studied it. But her book on the autoimmune solution is wonderful. I mean, so under the eating category, I think she's one of the best. Dr. Terry Walls, same thing. She had MS and she turned it around by she calls it feeding her mitochondria. She said the food that we eat has lost all its nutrients and we eat basically cardboard food. So she puts together what you should eat and things like avoiding gluten and dairy and things that cause leaky gut syndrome, but then eat things that are all nutrient rich. So following her guide, she's another great resource. But under that category of eating, there's great resources. Um, there are great resources of fasting, of what not to eat. I mean, we evolved, most of the time we weren't eating, we were looking for food. So things happen when we're not eating. There's I forget the term for it. Is it called atoposis? I think it's when autoposis is when you clear out. No, not ketosis is what. No, ketosis is when you burn fat rather than sugar. Autoposis.
That's
and
when
I might
you just stop eating. Okay.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
what happens during that process? What that process means is you're clearing out all the dead cells. You're clearing out the stuff that's going to become blockages. You're clearing out the stuff that's going to become plaques in your brain. This is just a natural process that happens every day. But when you fast, it happens like 100 times and 100-fold. So there is nothing you can do more powerful to change all of your biomarkers, all the things that they measure. How healthy is this person? What's their resting heartbeat? What's their inflammatory markers? What's their sugar utilization? All those, there's nothing you can do to change that more than fasting. And there's a physician in California, University of California, and I've just drawn a blank on his name, but he wrote a book called The Fasting Mimicking Diet. But he says, I'm Italian. I can't tell people.
I actually have that book. I have that book, and it's like you're not fasting like a 3 days. You're not eating anything, but it's tricking your body. And how do you achieve that?
Well, his studies were, since he said I'm Italian, I can't tell people not to eat. He said, what's the most you can eat? And what should you eat so you still get the same effect as if you're fasting? And he came up with something that was like 1,000 calories a day, but those calories had to all be ketosis, fat-burning calories. Like you can eat an avocado and some olives and a few nuts. Not a lot, but it's enough. It's enough that you feel like I'm not absolutely starving. And you do that for 3 days. There's another thing you can do to fast. Fasting just can be just fasting every night. There are diets where you just don't eat anything after, say, 7 o'clock at night. And then you don't eat again for another 12 to 14 hours. So when you have breakfast, you're breaking that fast, but you keep it a little bit longer. And in that time, that process of cleaning out your dead cells, that atoposis, happens. Just like doesn't happen as dramatically as not eating for 3 days, but it happens. And so there are people that follow those kind of diets as a really, as a discipline.
Yeah, there's a doctor up north. I believe he's in Washington. And again, because we, look up so many people, I don't know this guy's name, but he does a water fasting. And he has a whole clinic that does these, up to 40 days with nothing but water, 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 water. And I've gotten in touch with him, but I would definitely need to be under somebody's care in order to even, psychologically attempt to go without food for that long. I've done the master cleanse, the one that's lemonade and what is it? Cayenne pepper and I think there's a little bit lemon and honey. I'm not sure, but it's called the Master Cleanse, and I did do it for 10 days. And I got to tell you, you got to have orange juice on the 11th day, and it was the best thing I ever had ever. It was like it was incredible. But that was a major one to go through. But I don't think I would do that one again.
Well, I think I may be, I look at a lot of things on the fringe. I love that this is the, FringeRX. I've lived on the fringe my whole life because I know I kind of was the odd duck. I didn't, have all the DNA or resources to do the things I wanted to do, and that creates stress. But these fringe things, whether it's, I have a feeling that the water diet is another way of fasting. My belief is it's probably you just aren't eating, so you're fasting, and you get the benefits of that. I don't know if I'd do it for 10 days. You'd have to. I'm already skinny, so I think I would waste away doing it that long.
Yeah, I read a little bit about like I said, I read the book on the fasting, and I did the one with the lemonade, and it did make me feel better afterwards. But I think what it did was it opened the door for everything to be like, okay, we want this. If you're going to fast, you should probably, for any length of time, definitely do it under a doctor's care, because
Yes.
it's just anything that you do, especially if you have an autoimmune disease, is risky, and you should always tell your doctor about what you're doing, and hopefully they're on your
Absolutely.
page. So yeah, what do you feel? And for you, it's a five-pronged thing, and I think that's correct. The stress, the diet, I mean, the relationships that you have and that you put yourself through. I don't know about the cold yet, but I'm going to try it. I used to do that when I was very like when I was 18 years old. So we're talking about 3 years ago,
Yes.
and uh, and and I did used to take a cold shower because I would be getting up in the morning and I'd only have 3 hours of sleep, and I would be like, oh, I got to get to work. And then I'd take a nice hot shower and then boom, turn all the cold on. I'm going to try it again, see what happens.
I look at that, as I said earlier, that's an icing on the cake. That's something, the cake, though, is, the main things of exercising and
Mm-hmm.
sleep, what you eat. But the big one for me was stress. How do I handle
Mm-hmm.
anxiety? I truly believe there's something in us that when you have all this anxiety and stress, you're in a stressful situation. There's a little voice back there going, you could just die. I mean, you can get out of this. And your body picks up these signals. Um, I don't want to overload people with, I've spent 10 years trying to understand this, and I am a patient, not a doctor. But hearing this, how to manage how to be conscious about how you're living
Mm-hmm.
and being mindful of that and handling stress, to me, was the biggest one. And you mentioned earlier, Anna, you asked me about journaling, and I think I went off on a tangent. That was started with Dr. Sarno's work about 20 years ago. He was popular for saying, he was a back surgeon, and he found that having people either to get back surgery or do intensive journaling in a specific way, the journaling ended up, when you came back 2 years later and say who had a better outcome, the people with journaling did. And the idea of the journaling is really to give a voice to repressed emotions, repressed anger. So when you write as an adult 5-year old. You want to give a voice, like you can use every bad word you want to use. You can say, you can yell at the people you want to yell at. And, like, Mom, why the blank, blank, blank did you let me do that? Why weren't you paying attention when I was 3 years old? How could I go here? And you got it. And by doing that, by giving a voice to emotions. It might not be the truth, but it's the truth of that emotion. So you write these things out and you do it for 30 days. And they found that that stops back pain. But that same method, a woman, Nicole Sachs, has followed up with Dr. Sarno's work. And she has people journal, not just for pain, but for disease, because it's giving a voice to these repressed emotions that cause anxiety and I think cause disease. And it's really just journaling and giving a voice to them. It doesn't take a long time, maybe 30 days, but it is a practice, it's a discipline. So a lot of these things are disciplines.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. And it is, I mean, they've proven how many times, I mean, if positive thoughts versus negative thoughts, how long that you can possibly stay on a medication without getting frustrated. I mean, the time that you said, "Hey,
Yep.
I'm done with this. I'm going to Russia. I'm going to have this done," and I mean, you're staying positive, 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 and that's key. You're my hero.
Well, Anna, I know we thank you, thank you. I love you. I have we share some of this, a lot of the same DNA, and in that, I know our grandmother was moody. We said she was moody. That's another code word for saying, yeah, she was probably depressed.
Right.
It run moodiness, depression, anxiety runs in our, in our chain of DNA. We inherited that, and so what do we do with it, and how we manage it? You said something earlier. How do you get in the habit of staying positive? So I have that. I mean, I feel like that. I know that Winston Churchill used to call it the black dog is here. That black dog is depression, or you just feel that weight. And so there is an intentional way. I just call it practicing experiencing joy. Practice experiencing love. Practice, it's a practice. It just doesn't happen. You have to practice it, and making space and time to do it, to say, I am going to see the flowers, I'm going to see this day, I'm going to see, whatever's happening, and I'm going to see the beauty in it. It's sometimes hard. The person in front of you might be not real lovable. They might be negative and spewing all sorts of stuff. And somehow, how can you practice experiencing joy when you're in the midst of something that isn't positive? And that's a practice. That's it. And there are things you can do, but it's a practice, and a practice starts with a decision. You decide, I'm going to make practicing experiencing joy a part of my life. I'm alive here. What do I want to do with it? I want to experience joy. But that is a decision, and then you have to actually practice.
Yeah, you have to practice. Life is a practice. You're an inspiration,
It
my
is.
dear. I want you to come out to
Well, thank you.
California and actually be on the show when we can actually go on stage
Be
here.
live.
You're so remarkable. You're a testimony of how you can be cured of an uncurable, so they say,
Well,
condition.
well,
Yeah, and you're an inspiration
I'm
to
happy to
me.
come.
And
Thank you.
yeah, and
Thank
we're
you.
gonna help a lot of people, because they're told all the time that there's no cure, and there's a lot of ways to handle an autoimmune disease by keeping your level of stress down. There's all kinds of natural things that you can do to assist it. But there's also real cures out there, and we got to get our asses off the floor
Yeah.
in the United States and stop it with this, only a few people get a clinical trial crap. It's just, it should be a national shame that we have so many
And
countries
and
ahead of
we'll
us.
make
Go ahead.
your voice is one of the voices that'll help make, you're one of the voices that's going to push that to change. But in the meantime, I always encourage people to do everything that you can. Everything I talked about today, there's somebody who talks about it much better than I do. and they're resource. They're resources. This is what they do. So people like Dr. Amy Myers, brilliant. And what I've done is when people ask me, what do I do? Because it's so you have an autoimmune disease, your head's spinning. You hear your doctor saying things that are not adding hope. And so I put a one page together of who are these resources that I think are worth listening to, that can talk to you about journaling, or can talk to you about what you should eat, or should talk to you about how you exercise, and talk to you about how to manage anxiety. And there are some great, great resources.
Yeah,
So,
you actually emailed me a list of those, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it at the bottom of this episode, and all those resources that you have will be available to our listeners. Also, we'll have it on the FringeRX website, and of course, we'll credit you for it. I won't act like it's my list.
I don't need the credit. That's fine.
No,
this is from Anna Strong.
You're a gladiator, man.
Thank you.
What you're doing out there, I mean, as far as you're even supporting research with what is it called, MAPS?
MAPS is a group that is doing the work with MDMA and psilocybin, and there's a group out of Johns Hopkins that I got to, and again, I'm going to put this under the category of icing, things like Wim Hof and learning to breathe.
Right.
But if stress and anxiety is your issue,
which there's a huge amount of stress
powerful.
of anxiety, everybody has to put up with it.
There are many practitioners now, therapists, that use MDMA, and they use it in a very structured way. And it's coming over the next 2 to 5 years, many practitioners that will be using psilocybin in a structured way that really changes in a huge way your perspective. So people who are dying, they know they're going to die, and the fear and the anxiety is overwhelming. They go through one of these programs at MAPS and I drew a blank on what it stands for, multidisciplinary something, but it's hallucinogen research with psychotherapy. The people who are dying, though, horrible fear, after one episode of, say, a psilocybin treatment, come back and they feel good. I mean, what happens is I mentioned earlier, practice experiencing joy. It's hard for us to practice that. This is when you take some of these drugs, you don't have any choice. If you are in the right set and setting, you are practicing experiencing infinite joy, divinity. I mean, you get these messages. I am part of the infinite. I am infinitely loved. I'm infinitely safe, and that changes your whole perspective. And so, anyway, those are. I put those on my list of resources under the category of going down the rabbit hole. There's things you can do. That is kind of like, as you saw earlier, I used an atom bomb by going to Russia to blow up my immune system. And I looked at these things like MDMA and psilocybin. Even though I'm on the other side, I don't have MS anymore. I don't have multiple sclerosis. I still have, and we share the DNA of all the lifetimes of the people that brought us to this moment of now. We inherit all their fears and anxieties, and all the ones that we develop and hold and try to live a life through are in the way. So if you can blow those up with an atom bomb, the atom bomb is things like MDMA and psilocybin. But I don't encourage anybody. I would never suggest to anybody just to go do. We did that in our teenage years.
Yes, we did.
If you take these drugs and you don't have the set or setting, you're going to have a wonderful carnival ride or a scary carnival ride, and you don't get out of it. But if you really go in it with intention and with the right set and setting and the right guides, And that's what MAPS is trying to structure. They want to structure a way so it just doesn't go off the rails again like it did when Timothy Leary said, everybody, just take this. This is wonderful. So anyway, that's a way to practice experiencing joy. I don't know how much time we have, but I was going to say one of the ways I experience joy is I practice my ukulele. and I sing, I do ukulele puppet shows to my grandchildren.
Oh my
if you
God,
don't have grandchildren,
puppets, yay!
I brought a puppet, yes, but I don't have anybody, I can't play the ukulele and do the puppet show dancing at the same time. But I do, to me, that's my meditation now. I mean, if I want to practice experiencing joy, this to me is a lot of practice, but the moment when you're playing for a little child, I watch my little granddaughter, Willow Moon, look at me, and you see you're creating a special moment where she realizes the world isn't what she's seeing something she's not seeing elsewhere. It's like a first kiss or seeing with new eyes, everything. And it's fun to be the person that brings that to her. This is what I play this to my granddaughter. It's Sweet Pea. Sweet pea, apple of my eye. I don't know when and I don't know why, but you're the only reason I keep on coming home.
Sam, come here.
Sweet pea, what's all this about? Can't get your way, all you do is fuss and pout. You're the only reason I keep on coming home. I'm like the rock at Gibraltar, I'm always gonna falter, and words just get in the way. I know I'm gonna falter, I'm trying to get older, never think before the things I say. Do. Thank you, Anna. Hope everybody feel better.
Mark, and everybody just give him a big round. Keep singing. You're getting it standing up.
I keep on coming home.
Thank you very much, Michael. Give him a round of applause, people. Thank you, and bye-bye.